Hello everyone, welcome to today's Novedge webinar, ARCHLINE.XP Complete Software Solutions for Interior Design. Creating stunning visuals should be fast, simple, and effective. Meet ARCHLINE.XP, a design software that requires no prior CAD knowledge, offering a powerhouse of tools to create kitchen design, tiling layout, soft furnishing, upholstered furniture, and all the intricate details which help you communicate your design ideas. Today's webinar presenter are Illesh Papp, who's an architect, CG and CAD specialist, and Zoltan Toth, who's a sales and marketing specialist. And they're a really dynamic duo, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And now here's the page on our on Novedge.com where you can find the product. Check it out. Novedge is changing the way designers purchase 3D software, offering more choices, more freedom, best advice, faster service with no headaches. And as I was saying, we are so impressed by ARCHLINE that we would like you to experience it firsthand. That's why we will be issuing a 2-month free trial. Just contact Novedge. You can email me directly, barbara@novedge.com, or just call us. Our phone number is on every page on our webpage. So, and we'll be giving you the trial for you to really test it and test the software and see if you like it. And now I'm going to share. I think Illesh is gonna share his screen and take you through the software. Take it away, Illesh. And thanks for joining us today.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for the introduction. I'm an architect. I'm Illesh, and today, together with my colleague, I'm willing to show you as much as possible for the interior designers what they can do with the software. It's a robust software, so we cannot show you everything, but we try our best to show you the best things, the most important tools, so that you can, when you use the trial, you can test it on your own, and you can design beautiful buildings and interiors with your copy of the software. I have this project loaded up on my screen. This is what we will try to get by the end of today's session in 60 minutes. And also, I have a few images that were created with the software. And let me pass over the word to Zoltan until I'm loading up this screen.
Nice meeting you all. This is Zoltan Toth here. So together with Illesh, we did quite a number of webinars in the past, and the topics that we are always trying to focus on is to show what ARCHLINE is capable of. Because what ARCHLINE actually is, it is a design software, and it's targeted for architectural, but also for interior design projects. So what we are doing today is we are going to put the architectural side a little bit to the sidelines. And instead, we are going to show you how to create interiors like the one you see on the screen. And the show is going towards a fully animated live 3D walkthrough of a bathroom. And that is what we are going to build up during the show. There are two products that we are showcasing today. One is ARCHLINE.XP, and that is a design software, and the other one is ARCHLINE.XP Live, which is the fully immersive architectural visualization software that you see on the screen. Barbara mentioned in the beginning that there is no CAD skills required. ARCHLINE is a CAD software, but it's very forgiving for newcomers. So if there's one advantage I could mention right off the bat is that it has a very forgiving learning curve. I think when it comes to interior design, the first thing that we have to start with is just imagine that you sit down with your clients and you start throwing around ideas, and the first thing you have to comply is a mood board. Now, what is actually a mood board? Now, this would be a collection of ideas, inspiration, textures, images, or just things you are throwing out there in order to influence the rest of your workflow. So in ARCHLINE, you start with a sheet that you design, define how large of a sheet you want, and then you just start throwing in pictures. The point is that you don't need an external image manipulation software to do that, because ARCHLINE gives you the environment to build up these mood boards yourself. Now, in addition to images, you'll be able to add even hatch patterns, colors, textures, text, or any kind of raster format. You can use to sort of just to show your clients what the end result should be influenced by. Do you want to crop the images? Do you want to modify it? Maybe you want to recolor them. You can do that too. You can even invert the colors. The point is that this shouldn't be complicated. This shouldn't be a task which would require an external software. Just use ARCHLINE.XP to get on with the first couple of steps with design. Like I said before, you can add text. You can even add table text if you want. The point is that this will be the first part of your design, even before you get started. Now, once you have a good idea about what kind of ideas you want to communicate, you get down to design, right? But more often than not, you are not going to draw the first lines because somebody else has already done that on your behalf. So more often than not, you would have to use external files from other sources. I'm thinking of images, PDFs, maybe CAD files. One advantage I could mention in favor of ARCHLINE is that it is very open for other platforms and other file formats. So it might happen that you get floor plans in a PDF file, raster image, maybe an AutoCAD file, or maybe if you are working together with an architect, you get a file from Revit from in an IFC or even SKP format. The point is that whichever file formats you might be finding out there, you should be able to import those and process them. Now, we have a few examples here without showing you everything, of course, because Illesh mentioned time is not enough for that. Let's go with the first example, importing an image. Let's assume that the best you have is a scanned floor plan, a raster image, which is not the highest quality, but if that's the best you have, then that's the thing you have to work with. So the only thing you have to do, you just have to grab the file, drag it, and drop it onto the software. Do we even know how large this floor plan should be? We don't, so we just place it. And then, if you find any numbers, now we know that this plan came from Europe and it has millimeters. But how it should be recalculated, that's anybody's guess. First, let's check the units that we have. We know that the software now is in meters, in metric, but we are just going to quickly switch it to imperial and define on the rounding, on the decimals, etc. But once we have done that, we can rescale this image to fit our purposes. Now we know that for example, that 4,000 millimeters should be 13 feet and 1 inches. So we are just going to recalculate that. Just type in the values, just punch in the values, hit OK, and then the software rescales the whole thing. And the result is a fully scaled up floor plan you can start working with. You could be using it as an underlay for your further sketching. So this is not a CAD file. This is a raster image, as good as it gets, but this is a good start. Now, let's talk about PDFs, another very widespread format. So when it comes to PDFs, you could be facing a similar raster-based PDF like this one, or you could be luckier than that, and maybe you have a vectorized PDF, which is, this happens more often than not. So let's punch this in and see what happens. So when you have a vector-based PDF, you don't have to care about the inaccuracies because the software is going to be right off the bat asking you about the scale of the drawing. If you don't know that, that's fine. You can just fine-tune that later on. But this gives you a preview to show you, okay, if we import this as it is, that's the end result we would be getting. Obviously, this is not good. So it would be 20 meters. How much would that be in feet and inches? We don't know, but we don't have to know. Because once we zoom in, we see that there are actually imperial values written on this floor plan. So we could just very simply measure distances and see if this checks out. So let's just do a quick measurement to see if this is okay. So just one click there, another one there, 16 feet. And I think that was yeah, it's 16 feet. So this checks out. So now you could be using this PDF data to sketch your design. And there's a third scenario when, in addition to images and PDFs, is when you are working with a vector drawing, maybe a DWG or DXF drawing. And that's what we are doing now. Imagine this, you've got this drawing from an architect of yours who created this architectural drawing, but your task is now to recreate the drawing in 3D and furnish it. And that's what we do. We just first import the drawing. Maybe we do a dimensioning on it to see if it makes sense. And after that, we have the task of turning this dumb two-dimensional drawing into something more lifelike. And for this, we have a couple of tools. For example, we can draw walls using the drawing as an overlay. But if we know the exact thickness of these lines, then what we have to do, we have to copy the lines and turn them into three-dimensional shapes. And all we have to do, we just click on the endpoints of the walls, click on the opposite side, and the software creates the three-dimensional wall based on the thickness. Do we have to care about the wall thickness? We don't. We just have to keep on clicking and the software would create the rest. Now, one thing we have to figure out here is that once we have the partition walls, is that how do we get the openings, doors and windows into the software? Now, luckily, ARCHLINE comes with a library of doors and windows, which we can use to quickly sort of recreate what you see in the line work. We don't know the height of these doors and windows, but we don't have to. We just have to know the width, and then the rest would be calculated. So you just go with the door tool, once you have picked a suitable door from the door and window palette that we have built into software. This is a library built in, by the way. You don't have to download this. Just click on whichever you want to use, and then you can just track over the drawing, and you end up with an accurate door. Now, the thing is that I'm said in the beginning, you don't have to be a CAD pro in order to take advantage of ARCHLINE, but it is a CAD software, so you can use it to your advantage. What am I talking about? For example, when you have a TWG drawing imported, sometimes you use it for recreating the building, but at a certain point you don't need the drawing anymore. So you want to know how to disable these things. Once Illesh has copied the objects, now we can show you. Let's assume that we don't need this drawing anymore, so we just want to disable it, and this is where the layers come into picture. So if you ever worked with a CAD software, this should be nothing new to you. So you can use layers in ARCHLINE. It is a layer-based software, so if you're coming from a CAD background, this should be nothing new to you. If you are new to layers, then try to take full advantage of them, because they are just going to make things much, much easier. Now, once we have a switch of the layers, one thing to point out here, so far we've worked with a single layered wall, right? But more often than not, this is not the case. You need to know sometimes what kind of layer structure you have, or if you have maybe a framed construction. Now, ARCHLINE does have a tool for making wall framing. We are not going to create that, but we are just putting this out there that it is prepared to handle this kind of structures. We have an example project just to show you that if you have multi-layered slabs or multi-layered walls and stud work and veneer, etc., you can create that in ARCHLINE. I think we even have a project to show you a more complex building in this regard. You can see that everything comes together in the software. We are not creating that, but it's important to know that you can create with ARCHLINE a structure like this one. Now, let's jump back into the software and see what happens once we have finished the first floor. Because once we have the main walls figured out, the next logical step would be is to actually have something to walk on, right? Because you don't want to fall through this building. So let's just load up another version of this project, which has all the walls figured out, and then we are just going to proceed with that. So the rest it will be just rinse and repeat. So if you don't mind, we are just jumping ahead. So let's assume that we have all the walls and we have the openings. Next logical step would be the slab, which you can create automatically. Just track over the whole drawing and just tell the software to create it based on preset values, which, by the way, you can refine. But we don't care about this at the moment. What we care about is how to create the staircase. Now, imagine this. This staircase came from a two-dimensional DWG drawing. You have the lines, but you don't really know anything else, right? So what you can do is that you can pick up the lines and tell the software to create this drawing on your behalf. So you just go with a tool called Stair by Threads, and you tell the software to sort of track the lines. You just disable everything you don't need, maybe clean up the drawing if needed. You can do that. It's a matter of preference. So once you have deleted the things that you don't need, you have a couple of lines which you can track with the tool that we just showed you. So Stair by Threads, and the only thing you have to do, click on one of the contour lines, which signify a thread, and tell how high the thread should be. It should be 7 inches, and then you just keep on clicking. And when you are done with it, the staircase is going to be automatically created. So no need for any other calculation. The staircase is there. One thing to point out, though, is that the stair can be in connection with the wall, so it's worth talking about how you can make the software to automatically cut things that you don't need. Again, you don't have to profile the wall. You just have to tell the software that, listen, I don't need this wall above the staircase. Just cut it, and it should be there. But one other thing, and I'm putting this out there for those who want to design staircases, not to recreate ones. You can create staircases from scratch. So if you want to go with a predefined value, or you want to just create a new staircase, you can do that too. So you can definitely draw that. Now, once we have the staircase, and once we have defined it to our taste, the next question would be, how do we get from one floor to the next? Because this is going to be a two-story building, and there are some things that we have to do on the second floor. So we have a floor structure, which the only thing you have to care about here is that you can duplicate elements to another floor, and that way the content would be copied. So you don't have to recreate the whole thing. You just have to say that this content should be moved or copied one floor up. And once you have done that, you can clean up the drawing and make it neater. So the things that you don't need the staircase, you don't need the partition walls, just delete the things that you don't need. Quick question here, what happens with the staircase? You can't use it because there's no hole in the slab. Again, an automated tool jumps in to help you. Click on the staircase, say cut the slab above the staircase, and there you should be going. And another thing, the roof. Now, you don't always need to make a roof in an interior design plan, but if you are doing a loft conversion, for example, you need to get the roof pitches right. And for that, we are going to create a very simple roof above this drawing. And I think for that, we have another stage of this project. And without going into details, ARCHLINE comes with a very complex roof editor. Every single pitch can be customized with battens and rafters and color beams and whatnot. You can go that path if you want to create a visible roof structure, but if you're just going for a very simple conceptual roof, then you can do it just like that. Just drag the outline, hit enter, and then the software does the rest. The only thing you have to care about is the pitches of the roof size, or maybe the texture. So just click on and pick a texture that you need, and then onto the pitch and shape, and then you can change the shapes to 25 degrees and 35 degrees, or whichever degrees you want. So Illesh just created a firewall, turned one of the roof panels into gable end, and with very simple clicks, you can just distort the shape any way you want. How high the roof is from the walls, you can define that with certain values. So you just type in the value that you need, hit OK, and then you end up with a roof like that. But this is all external things, architecture, right? Now, once we have the building, we have to talk about what happens in the inside. So how do we get it properly designed? There's a couple of things we have to do. We have to add furniture pieces, we have to create tiling, use textures on the walls, so lots to do. So we are just going to jump in, and for example, when you have a clean environment like that one, you want to
populate... just a quick word about one thing about how to set a perspective, because
yes,
here definitely. I just wanted to mention that because previously by default the software works in a sort of axonometric view, which you can actually switch here. You can set up a side view, left view, and so on. But also here, which is what we call a navibar, here on this navigation panel, you have this little eye here where you can actually set up where you are and where you look at, and you just define nice perspective for yourself, and then you can just save all these views for yourself. Sorry, this is what I wanted to add.
What I love about this is that you don't have to punch in coordinates. You can do that, but it's very visual. You can just grab the camera and move it wherever you want. So it's very visual. Now, the couple of things you want to do here. First of all, let's populate the room with furniture. Now, when it comes to furniture, there are two major depositories where the furniture could be coming from. One is the built-in library we have. We have many, we have a wealth of objects in the software, lamps, sofas, tables, etc. So you can do that from within the software. That's a no-brainer. Once you have placed these elements, you can rotate them, move them, scale them, resize them. However, the market changes so rapidly that we can't keep up. Nobody can. So for this reason, we are connecting to the largest object libraries, and one of these is the 3D warehouse from the company Trimble, and here you can find basically anything. So if somebody has ever designed these elements, they should be up here. So if you want to download a sofa, coffee table, etc., you can just type in the name and download it. Now the important thing here is that ARCHLINE connects to this library directly, so you don't have to manually download things and then filter them and just import them and then see and deal with the result. Instead, you have it integrated into the software, so you can even tell the software that what I'm looking at is a coffee table with the size between these two values, and you can preview the elements before you download them. Now, once you did download them, they are going to be jumping into the software, and they are going to be treated as a local element. So now they are part of your library, so next time you can use it just fine. Same applies to any kind of elements. You can download anything you want. Now, once we have a couple of furnitures, we have to talk about how to, one thing I have to point out, we mentioned the 3D warehouse, but if you have an SKP file or an IFC file for an object, you can use that too, or OBJ. So if you have 3D libraries, check the file format. More likely than not, we can import it as well. Now, next topic is when it comes to interior design, the thing that is very difficult to handle is tiling. Now, why is that? It's because when you want to create tiling, you have two choices. You could be either using a texture, but that's not really giving you estimates, or you can use any other tools to sort of simulate the tiles as 3D bodies, but sometimes it's a bit time consuming and it takes a lot of processing power. Now, in our software, you can tile with actual 3D bodies. There are two advantages for that. One, it would look very good on a render. The other advantage is that you can get exact calculations out of it. So if you want to tell the software that, okay, tell me how many tiles do I have on this 20 square feet of surface, then the software would be able to tell you. So 20 square feet, I think that was too little, but you get the idea. So you define what kind of texture you want to use, define the size of the tile, the layout, so how you want them to be organized, and just hit OK, and then the tile will be created once you have defined the direction. So you can even move these things. You can randomize the tiles, and then the software would be creating these tiles based on your preferences. Now, you don't like it, you can shift the tiles, you can change a few tiles, you can change the area of which is being tiled. So if you want to change the layout, you can do that too. Now,
one thing to add up here, which I wanted to talk about, is that you can actually reshape this layout. I'm not fully following this contour, but the contour that you are actually designing is the so-called background area, that when you edit that area and when you hit enter, then the software will reshape that. So you can actually follow this contour fully with this tool, with the add and edit tool. You don't have to have just a straight cut or something like that at the beginning.
Can you just zoom in the 3D to show that we are actually talking about three-dimensional bodies with grout and distance between the tiles? So it just looks very good on a render, especially if you have the textures and the materials figured out. Which reminds me, the next thing we have to talk about is materials. Now, ARCHLINE, just like with objects and furniture, comes with many textures you can use. But sometimes that's just not enough for you. Sometimes you want to use the texture that you see on the screen, but maybe you want to give it a different tone. You are able to do that. So once you have a material set up, you can add a color. You can mix another color into the texture, and you can say that I want to have a brownish version of the textures. Don't forget that this does not replace. So it's a non-destructive way of trying alternatives. So imagine that you sit down with your client and the client says, I love the texture of this wood, but I want to have a different color. Then you can just show alternatives just like that. Just enable, disable the covering. Another thing, imagine this, your client has a very specific wallpaper in mind, something that he just wants to see on the wall. But the problem is that you don't find the right digital representation. You don't find a seamless texture for that. What happens then? You could be using an external image manipulator software to amend that. But first, let's look at the problem itself. So imagine that this was the picture that your client sent to you, saying, this is what I want to see on the wall. Now, the problem is that this is not repetitive. So if you put this on the wall as a repeating pattern, you would see that the pattern is broken. So you have to fix this somehow. Luckily, there's a tool in the software which creates seamless pattern from any kind of image. So you can just click on the image and just try to crop it. And when you do the software, extend the image and tells you that if you crop it like this, then the repetition would be fine. So once you have done that, you can save this into your material library, and you can use it on any kind of surface. So that's what we are doing now. And with this, you don't have to again, reach out for another software, you can just use whichever you want. The height and the width should be, I think 4 by 4 feet would be fine. So that way we can, I think you have inches, but
yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'll fix that. It's if you created a material and you made a mistake, just as I did, you can find it in the material libraries, and you can just search for. I use the name Novedge, so it will be easy to find. I have this here, and when I click on it, I can see the values, and I just made a mistake. I just used some very small value, so I just fixed that. I can even turn on the aspect ratio, maintaining the aspect ratio if I want. But now I just fixed that, so it's in my libraries in this size, and I can also change how it reflects the lights and so on, what sort of material type this has. Like, for example, this is actually a wall surface or something like that. I can just do that. And then with a very simple way, very intuitive way, I just click and drag and release it on the surface, and I say I would like to use this as a painting, or this actually in the software means the same as wallpaper. So now when I apply it on the wall surface, now it's quite large as I want it, and it's nice and seamless, just as I want it. So I did not have the perfect seamless image at the beginning, but I could solve it within the software. And still I have the option, just as in case of the floor, I could recolor this if I would like to have a nice turquoise version of this or anything. I could do that.
Can we actually show that? I think we have the time for that. So can we just quickly recolor this just to?
Yeah, if you just do the same, if you just select the material, you right click on anything. This is what we call a context menu. If you click on that, you find material, and here at the left hand side, you just use the add color. That's the same. You just try to find something nice. Let's say, well, let's just go a little bit darker gray tone or something like that, and then it recolors it. So this acts exactly the same way as it was working with the floor. So there's no difference. This texture actually can also be transparent as well. So if you would like to, you can also create a nice lampshade out of it, or a curtain or something like that.
Perfect. It would look great on renders. Now let's go to that corner which is tile, because the next task we have to complete is that we have to create a very conceptual kitchen. Now when you are doing kitchen design, the things you could be doing, you could be obviously reaching out to the 3D warehouse and find furniture pieces over there, or you can use the cabinet maker in ARCHLINE. Now the cabinet maker is a tool to create parametric furniture, but what does that even mean, parametric? Now it means that you can resize elements without squeezing them. You can open the doors for these cabinet items. You can add appliances to it. So you can use all kinds of elements here with all kinds of textures, and they would be behaving as kitchen pieces, including the ability to get calculations on the number of panels you will be using. So if you need to have quantity takeoffs on these panels, they are going to behave not as dumb information-less objects. Instead, they will be behaving as intelligent objects from which you can get calculations. Now, once we have the basic elements for this kitchen figured out, then the next thing we could be dealing with is how to sort of document it. But before we do that, let's just allow Illesh some more time to finish the kitchen, maybe put in a worktop or things like that.
What I'm willing to do now is just quickly assembling one basic layout, because you can actually, I will show you that, you can actually fully design a kitchen cabinet in the software, which is fully parametric. You can change any option that you can see, and any size and any sort of inlay of these items. The software comes with a built-in library of, for example, kitchen units. You can find base cabinets, countertops, cooktops, high cabinets, and so on. If I just select the high cabinet, like for example, let's just go with this one, and then I will use the other one. So I just select one, I hit OK, and then I say, okay, let's just go with this one. I would like to see one here, another one here, and another few here, and so on. So I just keep going, and I keep adding those things. And what I usually do, I don't always start from scratch. I usually try to find units that are similar to the ones that I would like to use, perhaps in size, perhaps in layout, and then I start customizing them. And by the way, this is the exact same way how I would recreate an item. So for example, if this is a unit here, a very important thing of a unit is on this page, the unit has divisions. So you can say that actually you have this unit divided into 1 and 2 parts. And then, for example, in front of this part, you would like to add a door, or you would like to insert a drawer or something like that. So if I go here and I say, I don't want to see a door, so I just erase that, then I have an empty place, an empty space here, which I can even change the size of it, and I can just keep adding further divisions. So I can say, okay, here I would like to add, like, I don't know, 2 more shelves, and I also would like to add 2 vertical divisions, for example. I'm sorry, I just changed this one. So I just go here and I click into this one, and I further divide this into additional more units, and so you can just keep going and adding those things. And the way this layout looks like, you can always find how these are actually divided into several parts. And if you change where this division is, which I'm doing now, I just keep moving this bar, and I can type a value to determine the top unit part and the bottom unit part, and then just as the same, I could do the same with the bottom part as well. So this way you can redesign the unit, and you can add items, you can completely reshape it. The first page is about the width, height, size. You can also change the topology of this furniture. You can also add doors to the other sides, and so on. So this is how it goes. And just as a final touch, before I load up the final version of this kitchen, I just would like to show you how to create a countertop, which is actually this tool here. And you can just quickly set up a so-called, this is what we call, it's a path. And you can say, well, now this is a straight path with the default materials. Now perhaps I would like to add something like an electric hob or something like that. And when I do that and I hit create, then I can just, remove it. Now, unfortunately, I placed it to the wrong place, but I can say, like, for example, I would like to place it, I don't know, like 2 feet from the left-hand side. I would like to change how it's positioned. There are always these fine tweak options where these tiny arrows help you to understand how it is sunken into the countertop, or whether it is moved to the back or to the right and the left-hand side, and you can just nicely move it to the place you want. And then the same thing you can do with the wash sink and so on. Let me just load the final version so you can see how it really looks like in the end. And of course, you can also customize the material of it.
And the point here is that with just a few clicks and with very little effort, you can create a conceptual kitchen design from which you can move on. So if you want to communicate your ideas in terms of what kind of panels you want to have for the kitchen, maybe you want to have a kitchen island or not, then that would be the time and place to do that. And that actually gives us another topic, and that is connected to the kitchen elements, is what happens with the electrical things. If you look just above the kitchen, you see that we have spot lamps. Now, with ARCHLINE, you are able to create lighting elements. You are able to handle lamps, which are actually, if we are going to see it later on in rendered images, they are going to act as light sources. So they are going to light up the scene. So we have 10 little spot lamps here, and they are just going to make wonders for the render, because you can define the light's color, you can define the light intensity. But what happens with the documentation part of things? So how do you turn these into or you want to first show how to create them?
I just would like to show you just a quick distribution, because this is really easy in the software. Now, what you need to set up, this is just an object that you can find in the software which has lights. This is in the same exact library where I was previously, and it is in the objects lighting, and there you can find ceiling lights, spotlights, and so on. So this is where you should look for these items. Now here, what I've placed earlier, I just determined the ceiling height. This is the base elevation. And then what you can do, you can just create a copy. You can say that you would like to move a copy of this. And then you can select these two, and you can say that, well, okay, I just would like to multiply it, and I would like to have, I don't remember what was the exact number, but perhaps I would like to create 5 more.
Yeah, 5 more, that will be fine.
and then let's just distribute it. So this is how easily you can change this distribution. And then now coming back to this part, which you have started. So I just please keep explaining, and I will add these things.
Well, the point here is that you not only want to have things which look like the real electrical items. You want to handle them as electrical items. Now, what does that mean? It means that you can get documentation out of it, and one piece of documentation for this would be an electrical plan. Now, what Illesh is doing now, he's placing European style switches, so the 2D representation is what we use here in Europe. But if you have a different standard in the US, obviously you can change that to another library element. Now, the point here is that you want to organize the switches with the lamps, but you don't really want to do all this manually. So you want to get connection, which would be in living connection between the switches and the lamps. So all you have to do, you have to click on the switch and organize it like that. So if you keep on clicking the light elements, the lamps, then they would be organized with the switch. Now, once you have done that, you want to track in the plan what are the elements that I haven't connected, and what are the elements that I have connected already. So if you for example, you just undo redo works in every single software.
Yeah, I just wanted to undo this to so that you can talk about this, which I intentionally forget.
So you can track in the software the status of the elements. If you display the statuses, then you see that there are things which are blue, green, and red, showing you the different levels of connection between elements. If something is not connected to anything, it's green. If something is connected to only one element, then it's blue, and if it's red, it's fully connected. Now, the point here is that the software tells you if there's anything you have forgotten. So from now on, the software will be holding your hand while you are doing the electrical plan. Now, what Illesh is about to show you is something that we call the room built-in power, and for that we need a room and area stamp. So
yeah.
So let's just do that.
So let me just do that. In this version of this project, what we have here, we are about to create the documentation, and we will also create a whole elevation view. But to be able to show you that tool that Zoltan was talking about, I will just quickly place a room by walls command. I will use that to place a living room. Well, this is what we call a room and area tool. So what I do, I just click inside the room, and the software automatically measures the full layout of this whole room. You can, if you want, you can also divide it into kitchen, living room, entrance, and so on. And then now I'm able to use this interior lighting plan, room built-in power wizard, which is not calculating the exact value, but it will give you an overall kind of estimation, based on those environmental factors, this sort of illumination type, lighting efficiency, and so on, that you could find here. And you can say that, for example, if you have any of those values set up here, then the software will calculate the proper value that should be used if everything is generalized. Now, in case of an apartment or a living room or something like that, you don't only have the same exact type of light sources. So this won't calculate the exact power. It will just give you a nice estimation about that. Now, let me just load this back.
Before we move further into documentation, before we do that, I think this would be the time when we do renderings, because at this stage of the project, this is when you do the first visuals. ARCHLINE.XP does come with its own rendering engine, which is built in. It's not something that you have to purchase as an extra. It is part of the software. Now, based on the perspectives that you have already created, and based on the material and light settings, you can get the software to render the visuals. And the end result, maybe we can show a few images in terms of what you can expect. So that will be the end result you can get from the software. Very nice soft lights, high quality texture. So this is the photorealistic render that the software has. In addition to this, and if Illesh, you could open up the chart with the file exports and imports, we could talk about that too. So if you already have a rendering engine that you like, ArcLentis, for example, or Thea, or any other solution, very likely that you are able to connect to that. So ARCHLINE has many export formats which these software products can read. So be sure to check out our exports and also the imports of your software that you are using, because maybe you already have something which ARCHLINE is able to connect to. If you don't have an external rendering engine, that's fine, because ARCHLINE has you covered in that regard as well. Let's jump right into documentation, because it's eventually, from the mood board all the way to documentation, this is what is going to pay your bills, right? So this is what you have to submit at the end. So you need to know how to document things and what you can actually do. Let's start with the wall elevation. I think the kitchen would be a good place to start as any.
Yes,
you have two choices to get wall elevation. You have a vector-based and an image-based one. We are going to use the vector-based one. Now you define what you want to see and how deep you want to look into your model. And then based on that, there's going to be a line work that you can just grab from your design. Now, the interesting thing is that these views are in connection with your model. So if anything changes in your model, you can update the views. But if you don't need to update them anymore and you want to modify it, you can just explode it and rename the text, change the hatch patterns, maybe use color fills. So from now on, this is going to be a line drawing you can use for any kind of purposes. For example, you can dimension it up, you can measure things in it. So because this is still in one-to-one scale. So if you, for example, want to measure and dimension the fixture heights or the fixing heights of this mounting heights of the cabinets, then you can do that. You can just click on the elements and then the height values will be added. Do you want to measure or they make dimensions horizontally? You can do that too. Just click on the nodes and the software does the rest. If you're coming from a CAD background, this should be nothing new to you, but if you're not familiar with this workflow, then this is very graphic, so you can just very easily just click on the things that you want to dimension, and then the software does it for you. Now, creating rooms within your design, we already covered that, but what happens if you want to have a dimensioned floor plan out of this? Because this is still a one-to-one model. So how do you get this into a dimensioned environment? All you have to do, you just have to define what you want to measure and how. So in what order. For example, you want to have the doors and windows, the overall external building dimensions, and the wall endpoints. And that would be the sort of list of criteria that you want to dimension. Select the whole drawing, hit enter, and the software does the rest. It gives you dimensional lines. And the funny thing is that if you change anything in your design, maybe the window just moved for whatever reason, that the dimension would update with the element. So everything is in moving connection with each other. Now, text we already covered and annotations as well, but what happens if you want to get some kind of calculated values out of this model? For example, you want to have a calculation of the doors and windows you have. So how do we do that? We have these things we call schedules, and this could be used to define or designate any kind of element in your design. If you use it for doors, then what happens is that the software would give you a list of doors which are in your design, but this is not just a list, offline copy. This is a table text which is in connection with your model. So if you want to track back which particular window or door you see there, then the software tells you with an arrow that this is it. Furthermore, if you go back and change the dimension, then the model would update and so would the schedule. So this is a bi-directional exchange of information. So the point here is that the design process is complicated and it's long. So if something happens and you have to rewrite things and you have to update your design, you don't have to manually track the changes in your exports because the software does that for you. Now, once you have the floor plan, the tags, the schedules, the dimensions, you want to gather all this up and publish it onto a layout. And that you can do it with a plot layout tool that we have. All you have to do is just define the paper size, decide if you want to have a plot stamp or not. We just use one and we fill it out as well. And then you just have to drag and drop the content onto your drawing, and that way you are going to scale it down, because up until to this point we worked in one-to-one, but now we are scaling it down in favor of a much cleaner publishing opportunity. So we are just going to define how large the excerpt from the model should be, and then we're just going to keep on dragging and dropping the elements.
And actually the reason why I'm doing this is because here everything is in one-to-one. Here I placed it in 1:100, but actually this kitchen wall elevation I would like to place in 1:50. So I just don't want to place it just as the same as it is here, but I would like to use another tool, which is a very powerful one for that you could actually copy parts of this plot layout, I mean this original content, to the plot layout. So you can tell that this is something I'm willing to copy, and then I just use this paste to plot layout tool. So this is not the control copy paste option, but this is the paste the plot layout tool. So I just use 1 to 50, and I just nicely place it here. And this is everything that I placed here is in direct connection with the original drawing. So should I leave the office for a week and then I just pick up the work again and then I change anything, but I already have the layout, all I need to do is just to click here and to click on refresh this. And an additional thing that you can actually place anything on this plot layout that you can import into the software. So for example, you already created, just as we discussed that, you already created the rendered images, then you save them on your hard drive. Let me just quickly find those. And then all you can do is just to bring these up, and this is what I will just do. I just quickly click and drag, place this here, click another one, perhaps one of the quick.
Just like with the mood board in the beginning, you just punch in the elements that you want to see on a layout, and then you end up with a complete documentation in a scaled down version. So up until to this point, we worked in 1-to-1. And that sums up what ARCHLINE.XP does, but this is the part when we talk about something even more exciting, because we are going to move towards bathroom design. And for the fun of it, we are doing bathroom design in ARCHLINE.XP Live, which is the visualization software.
Yes,
so
just a second. Let me just quickly load up the final version before that, so that you can see this design in its full glory. And that is the final version, this one, where we actually have everything collected into plot layouts, and the mood board is also there, and the final renders are all done, and we also created all the calculations that we wanted. So this is what we have created, and the cool thing with this, you don't have separate drawing files. Everything is in one single, we call it a project file, and it's easy to maintain, easy to archive, and easy to publish into PDF files.
And everything was done here, right? So apart from maybe some imported objects and textures, all the rest was done here.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Everything that you can see on screen is either rendered. Now, those things, images on the mood board, those are obviously photographs that I've. Well, this is something that you can do on spot. But now I used Pexels and Pixabay to find some inspiration for myself there. So you are free to use anything that you wanted to use for your design, either initially or at the end of the final stage.
Now, moving on to bathroom design, this is the part when we want to get a little bit more creative with the tools that we have, and we decided to use ARCHLINE.XP Live, which is a visualization software with a very heavy emphasis on movement and on simulated effects. And here's a video just to show you what ARCHLINE.XP Live actually is, because it is easier to show it than to explain it. The point here is that it's all about movement, it's all about nature, it's all about bringing in better lights, even more lifelike textures, and tweak the effect. So imagine this, you have one result of your visual, but you want to fine tune it. Now, you could be doing this in an external image manipulation software, or you could be doing it while you are designing. And if you do it while you are designing, then you can react to the changes better, and you can test alternatives. The live software that we are talking about can be used for many other purposes. Apart from bathroom design, you can be used for creating larger buildings, maybe a city block as well, or just tiny apartments. As long as the project justifies movement and the presence of large, many surface items, this could be a good tool to use it. Because what you can see on the screen is that people are walking on the street. Leaves are moving on the trees. You can see high quality textures with some maybe wet surfaces as well. So this just really brings visuals to life. And like you see on the screen, things happen instantly. So imagine sitting down with your client and asking them how do they like the design, and they say, there's just a tiny thing I want to tweak, and you can do that right away. So you don't have to wait for renderer to finish its job. The result will be visible right away, instantly with a click of a button. Talking about bathrooms, you can just do wonders with some candle lights, water simulation, maybe some better lighting, a few softer textures that just make things much easier. Effects we have as well, so candle and campfire even, or maybe a fireplace, just makes things easier to understand and easier to communicate. So does the daylight cycle. If you want to show your design how it looks like in the during the evening, you can do that just fine. And again, no need to wait for a rendering engine to finish this job. You can just show it right away on the screen. Now, I understand that these things that we are showing you here are actually user-made content. So this is not something that we made. This is something that was made by the growing number of ARCHLINE.XP Live users.
Okay, so actually what we will create with this visualizer software with the ARCHLINE tool with ARCHLINE.XP Live is that we will use this project. This is one particular project of a bathroom, where we actually created all the same way. We created the tiling. We have downloaded objects from Google 3D Warehouse, and also found a few nice textures, created all the tiling, even the lights, lamps are on the ceiling. And here we actually used one extra tool which we didn't show you before, and that was the ceiling tool. We actually have a nice ceiling tool to create those nice suspended ceilings and decorative ceilings as well. But other than that, everything happened the same way we created the documentation and so on. So now, to focus on what you need to do to be able to create lightning fast renders with the live visualizing software, is that all you need to do is to, which I also mentioned before, you can tell the software that, for example, one certain surface is a ceiling, one certain surface is some sort of ceramic, and another one is water, and another one is wallpaper, wall surface, and so on. So this is what you do with the render styles. Those at the left-hand side, those are not materials, those are material styles that you can tell that the floor is a glossy covering, I don't know, perhaps marble or just a regular glossy matte material, mirror, metal, plastic, and so on. And then the rest will be kept as the texture tells the software. So you can have this same porcelain unit as a matte unit, or as a bright, nice, shiny white porcelain too. And there's actually one specific material type, and that is the water. Now it looks like it is just changing the tone of it when I just change this material type to water, but actually it will have one extra use, and that is that the live software will be automatically able to animate that. Now there's another important thing. You can actually do shadow simulations. So based on the geolocation, you can set up the geolocation, for example, on Google Earth with the software, and then using this shadow simulation, you can just set up the proper daytime and nighttime, and find the best time of the day when you would like to create the visuals. Later on, of course, you can change this, but it is a very, very powerful and very useful tool to be able to represent how it will look like during daytime. And of course, you will be able to create nice nighttime renders as well. And talking about that, we actually have a few lamps, as you can see here as well, similar spot lamps that we had before in the previous project, and also nice pendant lamps, a few behind us with the nice long chandelier-like object. And these are actually all real light sources. I mean, they have luminous efficiency. They actually emit lights, even though we can't see it now because we do not create the visuals yet. But you can define that, and you can also, if you're familiar with that, you can also use IES standard light sources from manufacturers. Well, there's one extra thing that I wanted to show you, and that is the animation, which is very, very powerful. You can just simply design a path and tell the software whether you would like to, how you would like to move on along that path, how long this animation should take. You can create as many animations as you would like to, and then later at the end you can also stitch them together into one single video file, even right from within the live software. So this is how it goes, and everything that you set up here can be passed to live using this option. So live was already installed on this computer, so what I do now, I just hit yes, and then the software will pass this model to the live software, and it will calculate how it looks like, and then from that point on, it took a few minutes to visualize this, but after that you see nice glossy reflections real time, and everything that you see from now on is happening just as the same as you would design it, in the same pace. It is not speed up. What you do now is all in real time. So even the images that you can find here are all images created instantly in 1 second, because now the software doesn't have to render it, it just needs to save the image that we already see. So it really takes only a few seconds to create all those visuals. And then, well, this is just an initial, like a conceptual version of it. I will just enhance it with further details. But if the client demands it, I can already send them nice visuals that we can already talk about. And then talking about the material reflection types, as you can see, as we decided to have ceiling type, wall type, those materials are all either glossy or matte, but I can change their brightnesses, reflectivity in real time. So however I change these values, I can see the changes instantaneously in front of myself on the screen. And should I would like to have another image, then I can just save it as an image file again. And later in the end, I will show you also how you can create visual video just as in the same quality as you can see on the screen. So this is what you can do with these materials. You can change them. You can even use the built-in material libraries of the software. I will talk about that. The software is shipped with beautiful metals, water surfaces, and so on. And talking about the water, as you can see, it is nicely it has waves on its surface. So what I will do, I will just use this navigator on the right-hand side, and now I switch to the material page. And here you can see the different material libraries. There is one for the glass surfaces. And then now, for example, I can either decide to keep these that I already have on my visual in front of me, or I can just click and drag one another and test whether I like it better or not. I think perhaps this is a bit better. And if I would like to, if I would like to, I can just tweak it. And there's one key point here that actually you can change materials one by one, or you can say that, well, actually, wherever I use this material, if I use this anywhere else in this project, I would like to change them all. So for that reason, there is this all instances mode option. And then if I would like to click and drag another type of material, and I would like to change that surface, which is a nice glazed glass door, I can just click and drag, and then it will change the door, and it will change the panel behind the bathtub as well. So it's like an all instances mode, changes all the instances of this material everywhere in this project. And the same goes for the water surface. So the software is shipped with nice animated, detailed water surface. Let's just close up a little bit more. And then what you can do is you can just go back one folder, and you can just look for the water folder at the right hand side, and then you can just go with any of those, like a clean water, pool water, deep water, and so on. And you can just click and drag and test whether you like this one or the other one or the clean water. So you can just decide which to keep, and then you can just take a shot of this interior in this way. So well, this is mostly about the materials. Let me just quickly add a few metals, and then we can focus on the lamps and the light sources as well. So now let's just change these. See, as you can see, I've just changed everything to copper, and I think I should use some nice darker metal here. Perhaps that would work much better. I think I'll keep that.
I just love that the feedback is instantaneous. You don't have to wait for the rendering to be done.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. For this one, actually, you need a little bit more powerful graphics card than what you would have for generic CAD software. But you don't need to have like a very, very powerful rig. You don't have to have. But at least you should have a medium quality and graphics card. You actually have the system requirements you can find on our webpage, and if you need help, we're more than happy to help you understanding whether your computer is matching the requirements or not. And as you can see, the daytime, the sun is actually is part of the living environment. You can actually play how the sun moves around, and you can also record this into a video file. But well, actually, as you can see, we have this surrounding that is kind of empty in the background. So sooner or later we will have to add a few more trees or something like that, because all we have is a little bit of the surrounding. But let's just focus on the lamps first. Now we just created a night scenery. We changed the date and time to somewhere during early night. And then what I do, I just select the lamps and I just change their intensity. I can change their color, adding a little bit more warmer tone to this part of this interior if I would like to. Like, for example, picking up a material like this is a little bit cold, so I will just pick a warmer color, and it already behaves the way I want it. And if I would like to, I can change it a little bit more. And there is an interesting here, you can actually change helper lights. By default, all lights are helper lights to real lights, and in that case, they are actually casting shadows. So what I suggest here, you should not change all the lights to real lights, because that is kind of costly for the graphics card. But if you just pick a few, which are the most important, which I do now, I just change a few into real light, you already have this realistic effect when everything gets depth, and you can nearly feel, you can touch those nice porcelain basins over there, and you can just wash your hand. So at the end, what I wanted to add is a little bit of the surrounding. We are not designing the surrounding, actually we're focusing on the interior, but now we just would like to add a few things, like at least a few trees or something like that. So in that case, I can use the built-in library of the software. We have nice, beautiful, detailed plants and trees, nicely represented in those tiny thumbnails, and you can also see those tiny human figures next to them, so you can easily understand how large that tree will be around. And then you can just select any of those. Actually, all those trees are moving, as you can see. Perhaps you can see it on the left-hand side, and the sakura, it's nicely blown by the wind. And you can just pick up one, change it. You can, if you change your mind, you can just undo that, or you can erase that. You can just shrink them, change their sizes, rotate them, and all happens instantaneously. It all happens real time. And as you can see, you can also find those items with a proper name, with the size L, M, and S, and sometimes extra large, based on their sizes named properly. And well, there's a few trees already outside, and if I work a little bit more, and let's just jump to the following version of this design, where I actually have a little bit more detailed surrounding, then it will look a little bit more dense with the surrounding. So this is how you can add all the trees, perhaps a few bushes, and something else. And the same way you can add decorative items, like smaller decorative, I don't know, flowers, pots, or other details. You can just pick those, and as you can see, those are very, very nice, detailed, with pure realistic reflections and so on. So those are really spicing up the visuals. They also have a library for bathroom items, and also for chairs, beds, tables, and so on. Humans, a few cars that you can just pick and use, and place them right away the way you want. And let me just quickly add a few of these items, like for example this here, and another one over there. And actually there is one another tool which we won't talk about today, which is populating larger areas. You can actually paint areas with grass and so on. But now, because this area is a very small one, I just place units, single plants, one by one, and if I would like to, I can just select them. I can move them around using these axes, and also I can just rotate it, rescale it if I would like to, using all the three transformation tools. I'm just moving on this item on the floor. As you can see, the two main axes are highlighted, so this is how smoothly you can move even a chair or something else like that. And at the top you can find the rotate rescale tool as well. So if you just switch to another one, you can just click and drag and nicely rotate that item and perhaps enlarge it. in either any of these axes, or you can just, you know, click and drag in the center, and then you can just make a nice uniform scaling for the object. So actually this is how I populate this area. And well, there is another thing that I will talk about in a second, that actually you can increase the number of items in the libraries of this navigator. So you can import items or either OBJ files, or you can actually directly pass single objects from ARCHLINE to the live software. You can just click on them, and you can just use this option to send these objects to live. And then now these items automatically appear in the objects library, in the imported objects library. And now I have this nice towel, which I can just place over there. I can do the same thing. I can change its material, resize it, rescale it. And then I can do the same thing with this bathrobe. Well, this is unfortunately in the wrong, facing the wrong way.
So you can rotate it.
Yes, of course, it's not a problem. You just refine the position like this. Yes, that's much better. And if I would like to, I can change its size as well. Talking about effects, this is, I think, a very, very good thing that you can do with your visuals, that you can add those fire, steam, and other effects if you would like to. Just pick and drag, and then there it goes. It is already living. As you can see, it's nicely moving a little bit. And the same thing you can do with all the rest. And then if you have these all lit up, then this little tiny extra detail will give it a real nice kick towards realism. And then you can just update those images. And you can see initially I have created a few images, and now you can see how quickly I can refresh those. I just click on this button. Now I do that, and then it is refreshed. So this is how instantaneously, how fast you can refresh all of those other images. I just did that. And then when you go and open up the folder, and then the previous images are already updated with the latest version, with all the candle lights, all the tiny details, decorative items. The bathrobe is there, and also a few other items I have added later, and also of course the background. As you can see, a nice chair over there and a little table where I can put things on. And in the end, I also mentioned that I will talk about a little bit how to record this animation. As you can see, the animation that I've created in ARCHLINE is passed here, so I can just play it, and with the push of a button I can save it into a video file. But what happens if I not only want to save this file, but I just realized that I should create a few more shots, and then this will represent this interior a little bit better, and then I would like to save those into one entire animation video file. So I just pick up a new spot from where I would like to start a new animation, for example from here, and I add the new animation with its first keyframe. This is what you can see at the bottom of the screen. This is what we call a keyframe. This is where the animation starts from, and then you just find the end spot where you would like to have your animation ending up, and then you would click on that option, and now you have, well, this is a 1 second animation, so I need to change its length. It would be too fast, but I can easily do that. I just click here and I say, well, this should be like 5 seconds or 8 or something like that. I just retype this value, hit enter, and then now I have a 4 seconds animation. I just click and scrub this line, this timeline, and if I like that, I can just, you know, play it, preview it, and then I can save it as a single video file in the end. But if I don't want to use video editor software, then there is one extra step that the software can do for me, is that it can actually handle these two animations or any further that I create as a sequence, as animations stitched after each other. And then I can also set up a transition with the proper transition option. And then when I place this, I already have the bath to basin and the animation 0, which I can of course rename if I want. And then I enable the transition. And then now if I play it, I have a black to content transition, and fade out to black and back to the content and fade out. So this is already automatically created. And if I click on the little camera icon, I can save it into a video file.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how it happens with the live software. In a nutshell, this is what I wanted to show in the context of interior design in this specific bathroom case.
Perfect. And that is what I wanted to show you about what ARCHLINE.XP offers in terms of interior design. But I understand we have a few questions. Even though we are running a little bit late, I think we should talk about these questions as well. So here's one for you, Illesh. How can you change the texture of the wallpaper?
You mean, for example, the one I've created previously?
I think so. If you could just repeat that, that would be lovely.
Yes, it is a very simple task to do. You can just pick up any of those materials. I actually have that material already created, so I will just pick it up and I say, okay, I would like to use this the name Novedge.
Don't forget, while Illesh is doing it, don't forget that you can download images as well from the internet, and then you can use these images to.
Yeah, well, actually, this is how we got this image. Yes,
yeah.
Yes. Actually, this is how we got this image. We found it online and we downloaded it on our computer, and then I edited it as an image file inside the software. So now, if I would like to change this to anything else, perhaps this is what the question is about. I need to find any of my other materials that I would like to use, and if I would like to use this one, for example, I think this will be a nice seamless pattern. If not, we will see. Then I just click and drag and release, and then I say I would like to change this material to another one on this object. So this is what I do, and then this is how it goes. So with the click and drag, and the same goes with the floor, with all the rest of this material. So let me just go and try to find a nice cherry wood or something like that. It's a nice African cherry, and if I would like to place it here, I can say replace this material everywhere on this project, and the software will do like this. I just click here, and then now all the same materials are changed. This is how easily you can change materials from one version to another one.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answers the question.
Here's the other question what we have. For lighting, does ARCHLINE have an intelligent calculated lighting layout based on the floor area? I think this should be the built-in power, wouldn't it?
The software will be able to calculate an estimation, just as we showed you before, using this interior lighting plan and drone built-in power calculation, but nothing other than that. So there will be no other graphical distribution layout or something like that. It will be kept as a calculated value that you can place on the drawing.
Mm-hmm. Ready for the third one?
Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
On the schedules, is there a possibility to place a cost to each component, for example, door for a priced bill of quantities?
Well, you can actually build any of those calculations. I mean, schedules for yourself, and even you can create tags. We did not mention those, so you can go and you can not just place ready-made tag schedules, but you can also define schedule. Now, an interesting thing here is that you can actually go with any of those types. You can select any of those values that you already have here. But actually, as this is a BIM software, you already have options like price and so on. But you can also add additional items. Like, for example, if I go here and I reveal what sort of BIM parameters this wall have, I can see either simple base values, quantities, common values, and I can add any sort of parameter that I would like to, and then the software will, based on your schedule setting, will either list it into the schedule, or you can actually also create, we did not touch that today, but you can create Excel lists as well. So if you create an Excel file, list all of those details that you wanted to calculate of a wall, like the thickness, the volume, the surface, and so on. In case of the tiling, for example, the software even calculates the amount of tiles piece by piece. It will be listed into an Excel file, and then in an Excel file you can do whatever you would like to with that data. You can also calculate cost estimations and so on. So I hope this answers the question.
I think it does. Thank you very much for the questions that were asked. I'm just checking these were all that we had. And we were running a bit late, so again, sorry about dragging this for long, but we had questions that we had to answer. So I hope you had a very comprehensive understanding of what ARCHLINE has to offer. And now back to Barbara.
Yes, hi guys. That was great. Actually, we have another couple of questions. I will just ask one. What kind of training is available?
Lucky that you asked that. There's Ilish, is it
Yes, let me
possible
bring it
for
up.
you to open up the website and go to the webinar section? Because especially now that with the social isolation, we spent a lot of time at home and we created many training content. If you could go to the workshops, the second tab, please.
Yeah.
We have 4 different workshops in terms of ARCHLINE. We have 3 for interior design, preliminary, intermediate, and advanced. Then we have 1 course on architectural modeling. Now, if you could, for example, pick preliminary interior design, then you can see that we have many videos on different topics. For example, kitchen design, tiling layouts, calculations, etc. And there's downloadable content here. So if you want to follow along these free courses, you want to study in your own terms, in your own time, you can download the content and you can download the written course guide and also the workshop projects. So all this is free. The software could be learned from beginning to end without any attention or any sort of guidance. You can do it in your own time, in your own pace. And
Yeah.
if quarantine was good for one thing, it was good for investing into learning. Yeah, I see the other questions now, Barbara. Can you modify the graphics for the drawings, like labels, dimensions, electrical connections?
Yes, yes, you can. What I have used, it's just a basic default setting that I used it here, but you can customize anything. Literally, what you can see here at the left-hand side, the software is actually shipped with a few default settings that you can switch from one to another, but you can also create your own styles. For example, in my case, I used to use, for example, dark gray text instead of the black one. I also use different endings at the line end, and the good thing in the software is that one of the good things actually is that when you create any of those things, then you can just select, change those items settings, and then you can just select them, and you can just go there and create your own. This is what we call styles. You can just properly name them, store them into a style file, let's say that, and then in any new projects, you just go there and use those ready-made styles that you have customized for yourself. And the same goes with different symbols. My colleague mentioned, for example, in case of the lighting plan, that you can also use your custom symbols here. Now, this is the default symbol set for myself, what I use now, but if I would like to, I can go to the libraries and I can just select a different one. Or if I cannot find, for any reason, if I cannot find the symbol right within built in the software that I would like to use, at any time I can design these on my own, or I can import a block from, for example, as a DWG file, and then turn it into, we call them groups in the software, in a specific way as it looks like, in color and shape and size, and then I can use it.
Mm-hmm. There's another one actually about molding, which we haven't talked about.
Yes.
But I think it's worth mentioning. How do you create moldings? Can you do custom profiles for moldings?
Yes, of course. Well, the molding is actually a tool that you can just quickly use as an auto molding. In that case, the software will just quickly recognize the contour of the room and it will place molding everywhere. Or you can just use this sort of horizontal molding tool where you can just pick up a profile and you can just, let me just quickly draw a molding around here like this. And then you can just go to the library. I mean, you can go to the settings, and instead of this very simple profile, you can just go and find a different cross-section profile like this one. I'm sorry, let's just go to the libraries and here, and let me just pick up another one. I think I will just go and pick up something. We have a few named PX, and then let's just, or sorry, there is another one with plinth, I believe. So, no, well, I don't remember well. In that case, let me just use the PX one, and then I just pick up, for example, this one. Now, these are there ready to use, but the same way as these were created, these are line drawings. You just draw anything here as a cross section, And then the software, let me just quickly close this, and then the software has a tool to create, turn this cross-section into a profile. I believe it's here. Let me just quickly search where is the profile tool. By the way, this is a very good thing. You can just you know, search for anything. For example, there's this define custom plane, add profile, modify path, section profile, sweep tool, all sorts of things. And what I would like to do is a close profile tool. So there is this new profile, define close profile. So any sort of line drawing that you create or import, you can turn it into a new cross section, and then you can use it on your design. As either molding or as a kind of like a decorative profile around the ceiling, for example.
Hope that answers the question. So
yes.
I'm having for all these questions, it means that we really struck a note with this topic. So Barbara, I hope that you don't mind us dragging on for too long.
No problem, no problem. No, everybody's so engaged. It's you know, I don't mind it at all. I'm sorry I have to take the screen back now and take it away from this beautiful presentation, but here it is. I want to thank everybody for attending. Here's where you can find us on social media, and this is where you can find ARCHLINE on our website, Novedge.com. And also, I urge everybody to contact me, Barbara, at Novedge.com, and request the free 2-month trial of ARCHLINE, so you can really try it on, you know, for yourself, and then look at the workshop on the ARCHLINE website. I think you'll be very happy with what you have. So give it a try and let us know. We are always interested in your feedback. Thanks again, Illesh and Zoltan, for today's presentation. I've been recording the webinar, and it will be posted on YouTube and Vimeo later today. Thanks again, and looking forward.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, looking forward to more webinars, and please reach out for the free demo trial, 2 months. This is you know, it's a big deal. Bye bye, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks. Take care. Bye bye.